Hello and welcome to Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today we are breaking down Team USA beating France in the gold medal match of the Olympics. What does this mean for some of the people involved, all of the stakeholders, from Stephen Curry, who went on a blistering stretch at the end of that game, to Jrue Holiday, to Kevin Durant, to Jayson Tatum, because everybody wants to yell about Jayson Tatum. We're going to talk about all of it, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the future for Team USA, for France, for a number of different teams across the international basketball scene. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? Saturday afternoon, I go out, I mow my yard, and then the heavens just drop this beautiful rain as soon as I get done mowing. Like, there's nothing better than a freshly cut yard, and then it rains right on it. And then I get to walk in and watch Steph Curry do just something magical. That is one of the funnest things to do as a basketball fan, is watching Steph Curry do what Steph Curry does.
Yeah, we'll talk about that momentarily. So Team USA beats France 98-87 in the Olympics, wins the gold medal. 19.5 million viewers on NBC and Peacock, most watched gold medal game since the 1996 Olympics. That's exciting. People care about the Olympics. People care about basketball. People care about these players involved. And that's what's so great about this event, is it did really feel like, look, there were people complaining and pissing and moaning or whatever. You know, you'd hear people rooting for Serbia and Nikola Jokic. Kevin Durant obviously clapped back at one of them and, you know, did his thing. But by and large, it felt like mostly people got behind this Team USA team, even if there were these weird people online that were like trying to do other things. I felt like people really wanted to watch this team. And to me, the reason for that is there's a non-zero chance that this was the last championship game that any of Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, or LeBron James will play. That's the reality of where we're at this point in their careers, in the construction of their NBA teams, right? The Phoenix Suns, you know, maybe they could go on a run this year. KD looks great, obviously. We'll talk about him later. Stephen Curry, maybe the Warriors can go out, use their draft picks, make a trade, continue to, you know, thrive even after losing Klay Thompson to the Dallas Mavericks. And LeBron James, you know, the Lakers have draft picks at their disposal to be able to go out and make moves, but I don't think any of us really think that those three teams are really at the top of the pecking order right now in the Western Conference. And I think that's what people probably connected to with this group, is these guys aren't getting younger, and getting to see them on this stage for a final time is special. And we should appreciate everything that they've done for basketball. And we should appreciate getting to see them at this level with this kind of moment and rise to this moment. I mean, all three of those guys were absolutely stupendous yesterday. Getting to see them on the Olympic stage in a winner take all match was just something that we shouldn't take for granted, I think.
Well, and we've seen obviously these guys playing all-star games together, but those are meaningless. We saw Steph and KD play together, obviously. But I think what made it even better was they got tested. Like, these were really fun basketball games. And I'm sure we'll talk about, and people probably don't think they should have gotten tested and all of that. I get it. But I think that made it better, is Steph Curry hitting 4 straight threes in the middle of a 25-point blowout in the third quarter is cool, but it's not memorable. I wrote for over on Substack that I think that's one of the most iconic shots in the history of basketball. And maybe that's, you know, because bias of the moment and whatever, but people are going to remember at least that flurry. And that final one, I literally said, no effing way. And I've watched Steph Curry my entire life, and I know I shouldn't think that about any shot. But we saw, and I know we're getting ahead of it right now, but my point was we saw those guys in big moments do big time things when it mattered on a global stage, and they were getting pushed to a, when they were down 13 or whatever going into the fourth against Serbia. And Bogdanovic is playing great. The best player in the world is playing great. And I think that's what made it better. It wasn't them just killing everybody by 30. They were getting tested, and they really had to show out and have those moments. I think KD had a rebound in that Serbia game, defensive rebound, whenever Team USA was not grabbing rebounds that nobody will remember. But I really highlighted in my notes because I was like, he went and got one when nobody else was going to get them.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the idea of like, is that the best shot of Steph's career? I think that there is a real case that it is. If you think about like his finals performances, he's had great ones. Don't get me wrong. I do not want to diminish or in any way sideline what Steph has done. He is the best shooter of all time who had arguably the best shot he's ever made in his career. That like almost automatically, who is a top 10 player of all time, like makes it one of the most momentous shots in basketball history. And look, like we can talk about the fact that what they were up, I think it was it 85 to 93?
I can pull it up. I have it right here. It was 93-87.
Yeah.
So Wembanyama
That's right.
Banged a three-pointer on an ensuing baseline out of bounds for France to make it 93-87. Team USA, 54 seconds. Curry shot that shot with around 40 seconds, took it from a 6 to a 9-point game. So that game is not over if he misses. He misses that, Wemby comes down, or whoever bangs another, there's a chance the game continues. That was icing on the cake, though. And
yeah, he hit like the other 4 daggers.
I mean, like, so yeah, the third one, the score was a 6-point game because Batum had just hit a 3 to answer Curry's 3-pointer the possession before. So that was with a 6-point lead. France had knocked down a mid-range jumper after a timeout with 2 minutes. That's when he hits his second one to make it go from 6 to 9 points. I mean, they were all with Team USA was up 6, and he hit him after France had made a shot.
It's completely ridiculous. It's one of the great like shooting flurries, and Steph has had them before, right? Like he has made the Chase Center feel like it is going to collapse from like fans going crazy with runs that he's gone on. When he goes on flurries like this, there's nothing like it in basketball. There is nothing even remotely close to as exciting as when the basket looks like it is an ocean to Stephen Curry and he can't miss. And that in that moment, again, like this is what it comes down to. Realistically, he will do this again in the regular season this year. That will happen, right? But that could be the last time that we see him do that in the biggest spot like imaginable for that year of basketball, let's say. And that means something. It really does. Like, that's why I think Steph going on this crazy 4 3-pointers in a row run in the final 3 minutes. Like, I watched that game at the gym and then, immediately came home at, 8:00 in the morning or whatever. And just like, was like my wife, like I had to show her this. I was like, Laura, you have to watch this. Like you're probably not going to watch the gold medal game, but you have to watch this end of game. And then the theatrics afterward. He has like this understanding of the moment as a showman that I think is a really important piece of it as well.
So I want to go back because here's the one that maybe I wrote it in my notes, Sam. I put the biggest offensive possession of the Olympics. So the first one is even bigger than all of the others. So USA had gone up 6, 3 minutes, 45 seconds left. France gets it to 82-79. Wemby had that putback of his own miss, and it's 82-79 with 3 minutes left. And you know what Team USA goes to? they go to a LeBron James, Steph Curry inverted pick and pop.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
LeBron throws a ridiculous pass behind the back to Curry, and Curry does his patented shot fake, one side dribble, and bangs that shot. So it was down to 3. He made it to 6. France answers multiple times to get it to 6, and he always comes back and puts it to 9. And I don't know how much Devin Booker we're going to talk in this episode, but I'm going to take my chance right here because he had an awesome, there was a swing. Steph got doubled, hits KD, swings to Booker, baseline drive, and Booker does not force an attempt at the rim. He kicks to Curry, and I think that was either the second or third one that Curry hit. I wanted to give him a quick shout out as well.
No, we're going to talk about Booker when we get past like the kind of older guys here in a minute, because I thought Booker was outstanding.
I thought so too.
I mean, the two guys to me that, Steph was good for the final 2 games. He struggled.
Really struggled.
Outside of that.
Agreed.
Like he was not awesome. Like it was funny. He did like an Instagram live or whatever immediately after the game, and he was messing around with Anthony Edwards, and he was like, yeah, Ant just told me, thanks for showing up 3 days ago to the Olympics. Right? Like it was a real factor that Steph just hadn't been Steph up until that moment. The guys who carried them were LeBron and Kevin Durant, in addition to like Joel had a great game against Brazil and then had a huge game against Serbia. Yeah. Right. And Anthony Edwards had like a couple of big games and shot 60% from the field and 45% from 3. Right. But to me, LeBron was kind of the orchestrating catalyst of everything that it felt like they did in terms of creating transition opportunities and using what was Team USA's greatest strength comparatively to other teams, which was A, their athleticism, but B, their shooting.
Yeah.
Tell me what you told me before the show started.
Yeah, insane. So I hadn't looked at the stats for the whole thing. Team USA shot 46.1% from 3 throughout the 6 games of the Olympics, made almost 15 a game on just over 32 attempts. Yeah, crazy. Like that, big time stuff.
Anthony Edwards shot 46% from 3. Kevin Durant shot 61% from 3. Steph shot 41% from 3. Embiid on 3 attempts shot 3 attempts per game, shot 54.5% from 3. Devin Booker shot 61% from 3. Anthony Davis and Jrue Holiday shot 50% from 3. Davis only did it on, what is that, like 2 attempts, right? So he made 1 of 2. But these dudes like went out and absolutely fired the nets down throughout the entire Olympics. And I thought a big reason why was LeBron consistently got penetration from the perimeter, either in transition, getting up and down the court, or he was able to collapse defenses just by being bigger and stronger than everybody. And, he ended up averaging 8 assists per game in the Olympics. Like that is crazy when you're playing 22 minutes a night. LeBron averaged 8.2 assists per game. It's crazy.
Yeah, his passing was on full display. He had one, I believe it was to Booker that he threw the behind the back between like 2 dudes, and it was just silly stuff. I one thing I do want to give credit to a lot of the other guys, not just Booker, but other players as well. They really cut off the ball well. Like they figured that out and were able, because these are a lot of guys that are used to playing with the ball in their hand, and they figured out some of that off-ball movement. But LeBron drove all that. You could see he was there for the big moments. In that Serbia game, he had some really tough mid-range and ones. He had a 3-pointer in this game against France when France was starting to get some momentum at one point. He was just really big. One last thing I at least want to make sure. I thought it was also fascinating that all of these superstars with their own brands, their own celebrations, their own commercials, you know what they're all doing after Curry hits that shot? They're all doing Steph Curry celebration. LeBron is doing the night across the court. And then, Joel Embiid of all people is doing, like, you would expect this from Tyrese Halliburton, who had the tweet of all tweets. That was amazing. I really appreciated that as a teacher, especially. But the bench, all of these dudes are doing the night. And these are dudes with egos, and rightfully so, in their own celebrations. I think that just shows a level of respect that people have, that his peers have for Steph Curry, that they all just relished in that moment along with him and joined in on the celebrate. It was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I thought that it was absolutely amazing to see all those dudes just get so excited. I mean, you bring up the Halliburton tweet. I'll show it here on the screen.
It's so awesome.
when you don't do anything and still get an A on the group project. It's him having a gold medal. Just truly like iconic stuff. This one here, Kevin Durant, entertainment and IQ. I don't know if you saw Dennis Schroeder had said something about, oh, European basketball, it's not about entertainment, it's about basketball IQ, and it's about this and that and the other thing. And Kevin Durant very clearly took that personally.
Well, USA men's basketball Twitter account clapped back at Noah Lyles. Did you see this?
I did.
Yeah. So I love that this stuff all plays out on that forum now. So
yeah, it's great. Okay. So any other, like, I think we have to stop and talk about KD, but maybe we'll get to a commercial break here real quick before we do that. Before we talk about Kevin Durant and him being the greatest Olympian of all time, it's important to talk about Tea of a Kind. If you're tired of getting energy drinks that bring you up just to let you down, Tea of a Kind Torch Energy hydrates and energizes you at the same time by transforming your water into an energy drink so you can avoid the crash of traditional energy beverages. Tea of a Kind Torch makes it easy to try their products with their starter kit. All you have to do is you have to grab one of these things. They attach to the top of a water bottle that they will send you. It's in the cap. It has a chamber filled with ingredients and pressurized with nitrogen. It keeps everything fresh without preservatives. You just tighten the cap on that reusable bottle, and when you twist it off, the ingredients are instantly mixed with the water inside. No shaking. You just twist and you sip. One of the best parts is how convenient it is. You can carry multiple caps without the bulk and weight of traditional energy drink cans. Each cap only has 10 calories and packs 100 milligrams of caffeine. Plus, the flavors are amazing. Tea of a Kind Torch is the perfect on-the-go energy experience for you. Whether you're hitting the gym, packing your backpack, or traveling, a great tip is to take your Tea of a Kind water bottle through airport security, empty, refill it after, twist on the cap, and then you've got your favorite energy drink ready to go. Tea of a Kind is providing our listeners a discount for 30% off your first order using that code Game Theory. Try their starter kit, which comes with 1 reusable bottle and 6 caps, so you can try each flavor and refill it from there. Not an energy drink person, Tea of a Kind has a variety of other offerings, including tea, yerba mate, and other flavors launching soon. Enjoy free shipping, and once you find your favorites, set up a subscription so you're never out of your favorite drinks. Check out all Tea of a Kind products at drinkteaofakind.com and use that code Game Theory for 30% off your first order. Okay, Bryce, we are back. We're ready to talk Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the greatest Olympian of all time. He is the greatest Team USA basketball player of all time. We just need to get that out of the way and say it immediately because it is accurate. He has 4 gold medals now. Every single time that Team USA has asked this dude to step up and be there, he has been there. He has not skipped an Olympics. He was there during 2021 when a lot of dudes did not want to be there after COVID and everything. I think the fact that he is who he is, a dude that just loves to hoop, is probably why he does this. He just loves to be around the game. He loves basketball. I couldn't be more happy for Kevin Durant that he gets to experience being the greatest Olympian for Team USA, really the greatest Olympian for any, basketball based sport, of all time. He's well deserving of this honor to me, especially on the men's side. I believe that we should give the women some love as well on that one. Cause I think Sue Bird might have 5 gold medals, if I remember correctly. But Kevin Durant is the all-time leading scorer for Team USA, and he is the now only person to have 4 gold medals.
Yeah, Sue Bird does have 5. I just looked it up. So, and yeah, I mean, we talked about it on the last episode, I think, about how, all-time leading scorer for USA Olympic basketball men's, and then he passed the great Lisa Leslie for men's and women's. You mentioned the 4 gold medals. along with LeBron won the MVP in this Olympics. KD won it in 2020, 2021, whatever you want to call it, with the year that it actually happened. Basketball male athlete of the year, like all sorts of stuff, like FIBA World Cup most valuable player in 2010, even before the Olympic run started. So there's just like the dude just loves to hoop. It's what it's kind of been talked about him throughout his whole career. It's how it's played out. He can go out and get a bucket. He came in and scored 20 points or whatever in that first half, didn't miss a shot, 8 for 8, whatever it was, to start in the very first game he played in the Olympics. And this is why they kept him on the team, even when he didn't play in the exhibition games. And there's some questions around it. And I think people were going like, wow, you send Kawhi home, but you're keeping Kevin Durant. I mean, there's a little more invested here from Kevin Durant in terms of all of this, not just the records, but what he's giving in past Olympics and in general. So, he's obviously a historic player for the game of basketball, and to see him on the biggest stage continue to do it. And again, I thought what stood out for me with Durant was some of the other things he did. It wasn't just scoring the basketball.
Yeah.
Obviously he did that. I mentioned the rebound in the Serbia game. He had one in the France game as well that got to the free throw line where he was able to and he had a crazy block. Yabusele got a steal and KD met him at the rim in transition. This is late in the game. It's like a 5-point game or something like that. Now Wemby ended up getting a bucket, but he was making other plays outside of just scoring. And that's what was impressive and stood out to me also.
Yeah. And, just that game in general, the flow of the game, and we kind of talk about it a little bit. I thought it was really interesting to see how Team USA kind of adjusted throughout it a little bit, because France in the third quarter went like super, super big. They went Gobert, Wemby, and Yabusele across like the 3, 4, 5 for a stretch there in the third quarter. Then they went to like the Gobert 2-man game, kind of, whenever Wemby was off the court with DeColo and Fournier. And that kind of brought them back in. Like that was a 14, 15-point game, if I remember correctly. And then Wemby kind of went off the court, and we'll talk about Wemby. He was unbelievable in this game. But it was interesting to me to see that France just kind of went to, okay, we're going to go back to the old reliable guards. Nando DeColo came in and was huge for them. Like he hit a ton of enormous shots. Like he hit that enormous mid-range shot. I think it was like, to get it to maybe like 82-79 or something like that.
It was like after
after a timeout, I think.
Yeah. So it was 87-79 US. KD had gotten fouled on the rebound, hits 2 free throws. France called a timeout and he came out and hit that mid-range jumper. And then obviously then Curry went Curry.
Yeah. Like it was just completely ridiculous. So that was interesting to see them, like after having gone away from Gobert throughout the last couple of games of this tournament, they went to him a little bit more, but the key here was Wemby. Like Wemby has like 7 points in the first 3 minutes of this game and missed like a wide open 3 where if he would have made that thing, like I thought the entire building was going to collapse in Paris. Like I thought that entire building would have just gone absolutely crazy if he drills that 3. And I really wonder like how that affects the game a little bit. If he makes that wide open 3 to get, 10, 11 points or whatever he would have had within the first 3 minutes, he was ready to go, man. That dude, he had, let me look at the numbers here. I believe 26 points on 11 for 19 from the field, 7 rebounds, had 2 assists, but honestly, I think they blew like a couple of wide open layups that he got them playing as a hub, especially out of the post. This dude is something, man. Like his Olympics were not incredible. I think people are going to remember this game and think back to his Olympics and be like, oh my God, like, do you remember Wemby when he was 20? He was like taking on Team USA or whatever. His Olympics were fine, but this game was holy shit level stuff where he just he played Joel Embiid off the court in the first 4 minutes of this game.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The first 90 seconds, he hits the deep catch and shoot 3-pointer. Couple possessions later, he gets the post up and just a beautiful post move, left-hand finish. Couple possessions later now, follows it up with a touch pass to a backdoor cut. I think maybe the guy did miss that. But the play then, And when you were like, man, Embiid can't guard this dude, was the Hevsy into the poster dunk. I mean, this dude is 7'5", Sam. That literally made me go, oh my gosh. And not very often do I have like that kind of a reaction to those type of plays. And I was just like, I rewound it 3 times. And that's one of those where I said to my wife, like, Rainey, you need to see this. You need to watch this, because it was a beautiful hezzy and then able to explode out of it. Obviously finishes at the rim. It was so impressive. I text you and said, you met Chris at Vegas. All right. We had dinner together.
Yeah.
Chris texts me. He knows basketball. He's a state championship high school coach, played some college basketball. And he goes, Wemby's the best player on the floor right now. Like he looks like the best dude on the floor. And obviously by the end, you know, Steph and LeBron maybe had changed that narrative, but considering age and some of those things, that was big time.
It was totally crazy. It was totally crazy to me what Wemby was doing out on the court. He was controlling the game a little bit defensively in terms of the interior as well. Like he made it harder for Team USA. That's why Team USA had to shoot it. And honestly, like for France, to me, it just came down to they shot horrendously from 3 in the first half. Everything has to go right if you're going to beat this Team USA, team with the way that they are currently constructed. And I think they went 3 for 17 from 3 in the first half. And the margins are so small whenever you're playing a team that has LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, etc. That it's just going to be really hard. And a big part of the reason why it was really hard is, oh, by the way, the second to last guy I mentioned there, Anthony Davis was unbelievable in this game.
Okay, I was going to say, are we going to talk about Anthony Davis soon? Because I thought he was really, really good.
I'll be honest with you. Outside of Steph, LeBron, and KD, and Booker had a great game as well. I thought AD was arguably the most important player in that game. Like you can make a case he was more important for them in that game than KD. I think.
That particular game, I think,
incredible
because KD didn't. What did he? I don't think KD shot it well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he had like 15 on 12 shots or something.
Yeah, so he had 16 points. Yeah, 5 of 12. He did hit 3 threes, but yeah, I thought Anthony Davis was awesome. And the number that stands out, and I had it in my note, but the 2 numbers: 6 steals and 4 stocks. 2 steals, 2 blocks. So no, that's wrong. He had 2 turns.
No,
4 blocks, 2 steals, and 4 blocks. So 6 offensive rebounds and 6 stocks. That's how Anthony Davis really impacted and dominated this game.
Dominated the interior. There's a reason that, like, largely, in the fourth quarter and the most important moments, he was out there, right? He was their best center, realistically, at that specific juncture of the game. He had a few just like incredible moments. He had that ridiculous block on Yabusele with 2 minutes left in the third, and then comes down the next possession with a great contest at the rim. And then with 1 minute left in the third, he gets like this huge help steal where he like rotates over and gets the ball. And then Ant like throws this terrible, ridiculous like turnover that leads to a transition play. And then, it feels like Team USA like might be kind of reeling to start the fourth quarter, and AD just gets this enormous offensive rebound to kind of steady the ship again, right? He was so big, so big throughout the entire second half. I thought getting second chances, like you said, playing defense across the paint and being always available at the rim. I loved everything that we saw from Anthony Davis. It was such a great reminder that this is, when he is locked in, still probably the best defender on planet Earth. I think that is true. Like, I think that when games matter the most and you're in, pressure cooker situations where teams can spread you out, which takes like some marginal value off of Gobert, for instance, Anthony Davis's ability to move in space and protect the rim at an elite level is still probably the thing that I value most in the NBA defensively. It's just whether or not he can play a full season and finally get the Defensive Player of the Year award. Like, if he doesn't win one, it's going to go down as one of the crazier. Like, I don't think Tim Duncan ever won one, weirdly. But like if he never wins one, it's going to go down as like him and Duncan are like the two that it would be like totally bizarre if they never won a Defensive Player of the Year award.
Well, and he's going to have to do it soon. One, because of his age, but also because Wemby's coming and Chet's coming, and there's some good wing defenders. And I know it's a little harder for those guys to win it, but yeah, just looking up Duncan had 8 all defensive first teams, 7 all defensive second teams, but no defensive player of the year.
It's crazy. Yeah. So Anthony Davis has finished 4th in defensive player of the year, 9th, 3rd, 2nd, and then this year he finished 4th in defensive player of the year. So he's gotten a bunch of top 5 finishes, just never has closed the deal. Yeah, I really do just think that we're, going to look back and that's going to look pretty silly because it was him, it was Draymond Green from this era. It was certainly Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday was outstanding as well in the Olympics, and I want to, focus on him momentarily too. But these were, just a few, if not, Rudy Gobert certainly is in this mix as well. From this era, they were the best defenders. And for AD not to have one feels weird to me. But look, when you miss time like he does, that's kind of the unfortunate byproduct of what will happen. I would say the year where he probably missed it, I would guess, I think there was like a pretty real case in 2018, if I remember correctly. I think that Rudy kind of dominated the voting or whatever, but I felt like, he played like a ton of minutes in that year and like he was pretty dominant. And then the other season, I think, is 2020, where looking at the voting there, that was a Giannis year where they gave it to Giannis. I feel like AD finished second that year at 14 votes. I'd be interested to know what I thought going back to that as well.
And then listen, I'm not trying to take anything away from Marcus Smart, but the year, 2022, Smart wins it. AD only plays 40 games. So that's a year where they give it to a guard, which historically isn't something that happens, or in recent history isn't something that happens. And AD's, just not really, I know the rules weren't in play then, but he's not really a candidate because he only played 40 games. And so, that's a year where maybe he would have had a chance, because obviously they're looking to do something a little different with it, give it to somebody who hadn't won it before. Maybe he's in the running for that as opposed to Marcus Smart if he plays 65, 70 games, but he didn't. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the versatility stood out to me so much. And I thought in that game, the best lineup, hands down, no question, was Curry, Booker, KD, LeBron, and AD. Like, I just thought those 5 guys are who you needed on the floor, and that's who made the most sense. And I think looking at the box score here, those were the guys that ended up. Curry, James, and KD all played almost 30 plus minutes. Booker was right there. And then AD played the most, not a whole lot more than Jrue Holiday, but just by a little bit.
Yeah. And, someone in the YouTube comments brings up Bam Adebayo. Bam also hasn't won one yet. And I assume he will get one at some point. He's, not as far along in his career as AD is. AD turns 32 this year. I think Bam is still 27. If I remember correctly. So he's still got like 4 years. He's still got 4 years on AD, and he's been top 5 in defensive player of the year voting in each of the last 5 years. I assume they're going to get him one at some point.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when's AD going to win it? Because what'd you say? He's 32, 31, 32. He's got a few more years tops. We've already talked about the injury history, and we just mentioned Bam. We mentioned Wemby. We mentioned Chet. Again, do any of these wings or somebody like that get one? I think it's got to be like this year. If he doesn't get it this year, it's probably not going to end up happening for him. So
yeah. And look, like there's a lot of steam for Wemby to win one already. So it's gonna be hard with Wemby coming. Like
if they win enough games and they're a top 10, top 15 defense overall, the argument is going to be strong. The hard thing, we don't need to get, never mind. We won't talk about that. I was gonna say the hard thing for Chet is all the good defenders on that team. But anyway.
No, and like Chet's young enough to where I assume he'll get one at some point, right? Legacies for some of the guys on Team USA. The one that I think like this weirdly like very much changes things for, like the The guy that has been altered legacy-wise most within the last, let's say, 4 months, I think is Jrue Holiday. I think Jrue Holiday, from winning a title with Boston and now winning a gold medal with Team USA, I think he is now very clearly a Hall of Famer. And I don't know if that was true 6 months ago.
Okay, let me ask you. I understand what the Basketball Hall of Fame is, so I get it. Is Jrue Holiday an NBA Hall of Famer? If that's what it was,
I don't understand the question. Explain more.
If you didn't include the Olympics or college or anything else.
No, I don't think if you don't include the Olympics, I think Jrue Holiday is probably not a Hall of Famer if you don't include the Olympics.
Maybe I'm mistaken here. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. So you include everything from a player's career, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to ask. Like, maybe I just misphrased the question when I asked initially. So like you're weighing heavily the 2 Olympic golds.
So here's the case. Jrue Holiday has won 2 Olympic golds as like a critical role player. Really, it was like a little bit more than that, if I remember correctly last time, but like critical piece, right? He has won 2 titles as the guy that like put the team over the top immediately upon his acquisition. He replaced 2 guys that like were awesome, all defense level, really high end, like, you know, Marcus Smart's never been an all-star, but did Eric Bledsoe make an all-star team? I think he did. Point guards. And immediately it became clear that he was drastically more important in terms of winning basketball than what those guys were.
I'm just looking up Bledsoe. No all-star games.
No all-star games.
2 all defensive teams, and then all rookie second team.
Yeah. So. Jrue Holiday is a 6-time all defense guy. From Dan Devine over at Yahoo, who did the numbers on this. Jrue Holiday is one of 14 players in NBA history to have 15,000 points, 6,000 assists, 4,000 rebounds, and 1,000 steals while being an all-star multiple times. Oh, by the way, Jrue Holiday is an all-star 2 times. To me, Jrue Holiday is very clearly one of the players that we will look back on from this era who impacted winning more than any other player. You look at the way that the basketball world respects Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday just got traded for a, top 50 player of all time in Damian Lillard as the main piece. He has been on Team USA, multiple times now. He continues to carve out a role for Team USA more than anything. Like, he is not a passenger on these teams. He is very clearly an important player.
Okay. Can I give the 2020 numbers? Let me give the 2020 numbers, because this is better than I would have guessed. So he was second on the team in minutes. He was third on the team in rebounds, first on the team in assists, first on the team in steals, and he ended up third on the team in points per game. That was 2020 Olympics, 2021, whatever.
Yeah. He was like a really, really important player on that team. Also, I know that Jrue was not incredible during that playoff run for the Bucks necessarily from a shooting perspective. Like, I think he shot 40% from the field, right? I don't know, man. Like, I think he was, if not just as important, potentially a little bit more important than Chris Middleton. Like, I think there's a case Jrue Holiday was the second best player on an NBA title team, right? It was either him or Middleton. Like, I'm not going to sit here and parse, right? But either him or Chris Middleton was the best player, or was the second best player on a title team led by Giannis, who is a top 20-ish player of all time by the time he's done, right? This year, he was a little bit less than that, right? Like, he was probably their 4th most important player, certainly behind Jayson and Jalen. And look, like, however you want to stop and say what Porzingis was, right? And Derek White was incredible. He was right on the level with Derek White, but he was something like their 3rd or 4th most important player this year. And I give him the nod over Kristaps, if only because Kristaps missed most of the playoffs, right? So you can reasonably say, I don't know if I would say this, but you can reasonably make the argument He's been a top 3 player on a title team twice in the NBA. He has been an Olympic gold medalist twice, where he's been like a critical player, was an Olympic gold medalist. And he was a top 3 player on an Olympic gold medalist. He's just the ultimate kind of winner. And that's the reality of what I think we should be rewarding from the Hall of Fame, right?
No, I'm fine with it. I was surprised how much, like, I saw your tweet, and so I just kind of scrolled the comments. I was surprised how much, like, guaranteed 100%. It's not even a debate. It's not even a question. I'm like, interesting. I find it interesting. I have no issue with it. As you would probably guess, I don't have a whole lot of care about this necessarily. And the other thing is, I don't have the historical context to say, oh, well, this guy is in, so this guy should be in, like all of that. I find it a little bit interesting that everybody is so quick to say he's a Hall of Famer when he's never made an all NBA team. Like, not once in Jrue Holiday's career have people said he is one of the 15 best players in the league this season. I'm not saying that's an argument to keep him out. I just find it interesting that everybody seems so on board with it. And I assume it's because of the winning. And so I think how you preface this, and which is fair and right, I think how you preface this is important. The last 2 months has completely changed the case for Jrue Holiday, because I don't think we'd be sitting here saying this if it was, let me ask you, what if he only had one NBA championship? Would it be no doubt?
No, it wouldn't be no doubt.
Okay.
To me, it's the fact that he's
Twice.
done it now but for 2 separate teams in entirely separate situations,
Sure.
where he was the guy that like lifted them over the top.
Sure.
Right. I think Rachel Reynolds in the YouTube comments brings this up. Jrue Holiday is a force multiplier. I think that's exactly right. That is exactly what he is. He brings the best out of your best players at a level to which I don't know that there is. I'm sure there are a couple other guys like on the superstar level that do this, right? Like, we could talk about Devin Booker, right? Like, Devin Booker was incredible, but Jrue Holiday's ability to make 40% of his catch and shoot threes, be one of the 3 best perimeter defenders on planet Earth, drive, pass, kick, assist, it just fits with everything. It's why Derek White was on this team, right? Like, these guys are really valuable. And Jrue Holiday, to me, very clearly is now deserving of, I think, enshrinement in the Hall of Fame.
Listen, I'm cool. Like, I'm only throwing things out because I was so surprised how everybody was on board with it. So this was an opportunity for me to go like, hey, I'm gonna go play the other side of the fence just to see, because I expected major pushback, to be honest, from your tweet of, he's never averaged this, or he's never been on an all NBA team, or what. I think Jrue Holiday is awesome. I thought he was first team all NBA defense this year. Like, I would watch games and like, this is so cool, watching the matchups and how they used him and all the things he does and all of that. So because it is a basketball Hall of Fame, it's what he's done in his entire career. I'm cool with it, because 2 Olympic golds, like, if we hold any weight in winning an Olympic gold, then he was a major contributor to both of those runs, along with 2 NBA championships. So I'm fine with it. Like, I just thought it was be an opportunity to throw out a couple caveats of, well, are we sure it's okay without this, without that? And again, I don't know all, like, the case of some of the people that are in the Basketball Hall of Fame that I'm sure don't even have, I don't want to say close to, but probably don't have the same resume that Jrue Holiday had. I don't know how many guys in the NBA, or excuse me, in the Hall of Fame never won all NBA and are in the Hall of Fame. Like, I would love to know what the answer to that question is. How many guys
I would too.
in the Basketball Hall of Fame never made first, second, or third team all NBA? That'd be fascinating to know.
Yeah, like, the name that stands out to me immediately is Michael Cooper, 5-time defensive champ, or 5-time NBA champion, won 1 Defensive Player of the Year award, 8 times all defense, but was never even an all-star. Right? Like, that's probably one.
And so to build off this, like, no Olympics, right? Like, there's not an Olympic aspect to what he did. So the 5-time NBA championship is more obviously than Jrue, but Jrue can balance that a little bit with his 2 Olympic golds.
Yep. No, I think that's right. Okay. The other guy, I think that like you brought up Devin Booker, and this is kind of where I wanted to talk. I think this is going to look really good for Booker as it ages.
Yeah.
Being a starter, being a closer for this group of Team USA basketball, man, he was outstanding throughout the entire Olympics. Just did every single thing unselfishly. It was such a good team player to have around. His passing has gone underrated for the last like 5 years of his career. He is so much better of a decision maker than what I think he gets credit for. He often gets pigeonholed into just being a scorer. We talked about last week during the Bryce trivia segment, Devin Booker, I thought, was one of the guys that averaged 22 points and 7 assists per game last year, and it was 22 and 6.9, right? Yep. His passing and decision-making and vision just continually, I think, goes underrated league-wide. He's just a really sharp player. He's a really sharp decision maker, incredibly skilled. Obviously, the shooting, hitting 61% from 3 was ridiculous. I continue to think we probably don't give him enough credit for how good he was. Like did he make all NBA this year? I remember that I had him on my all NBA team. I just don't remember if he actually made it. No, he did. He made third team all NBA. So yeah, like it was a real question if he was going to make it. And then whenever I watched him, I was just like, man, this guy's like very clearly one of the 15 best players in the league. Again, I think this is going to be a huge notch on his future Hall of Fame candidacy. I would expect that he'll end up being a Hall of Famer because some of these guys age out, like LeBron, Steph, KD, etc. He's going to make a few more all NBA teams. I don't really even know if it's going to be a conversation if he's a Hall of Famer, but this is one of those moments that I think will look very good for him long term. Averaged 12 points and was really just excellent in the context of doing everything that this team needed.
Yeah, he's the one I hope we remember 5 years from now, 8 years from now, however long it is. Like we'll remember LeBron, Steph, and KD from these Olympics, I think for sure. But the guy, I hope AD and Booker are the guys we remember the contributions they made. Like Ant was fine at times, but I didn't think it was great. All the, Bam, whatever, Joel. Like I hope Booker gets credit for what he did. Like whenever, I know we're going to talk about the Tatum stuff in a little bit, but whenever people were doing the Tatum conversation and kept talking about taking Booker out, that's the one thing I was
losing my mind.
So that's the one thing I didn't want to have the Tatum conversation. I was like, I don't care. This is annoying, whatever. The only time I would push back is when someone said that Tatum should be playing over Booker. I said, no, Booker's playing the role. He is absolutely playing the role. He's knocking down open catch and shoots. He is passing. He had 2 that directly resulted in Steph Curry made 3, Sam. There was one in the first half where he gets one, he shot fake, and he could one dribble and shoot a wide open 3 from the corner. And instead, he forced the next defender to come to him, and he one-moored it to Curry, and Curry knocked it down. He cut maybe better than anybody on the perimeter off the ball. And listen, his on-ball defense isn't great, but he took those matchups, and, was able to at least save some of the other guys from having to do it. So I thought he was awesome. I was impressed all the way through. And that's the only thing that annoyed me. And I would push back is like, no, Booker is not the guy. Like set Ant, quite honest. Like Ant would turn it over and get lost off ball and all sorts of things. Not Devin Booker. That dude was hooping and playing his role perfectly.
Yeah. And okay. I do want to do the Tatum thing.
Okay.
Because I think that there are some things worth actually talking about with the Jayson Tatum conversation that people are like being obtuse about or whatever, right? So let's start here. Jayson Tatum over the last 3 seasons has played 3,500 plus minutes, all 3 of those seasons. This season, he won an NBA title, didn't really get a break, had to go right into Team USA stuff. I think there's a pretty real chance that Jayson Tatum was probably not at his best right now. Oh, by the way, just had a kid as well. Like, very, very, very real chance that Team USA might not have been getting the best of what Jayson Tatum can capably bring. Right?
And understandably so, right? Would we both agree? Like,
And that's not a
understandable.
slight on him. That's not at all a slight on him. That's the reality of what he's had to do because Boston continues to play deep into the season because of him, right? And because of Jaylen Brown and Derek White and everybody that has been on those Boston teams, Al Horford, the last few years. Second piece of it. Who did you want him to play over? I mean this truthfully. So LeBron averaged 14, 7, and 8. Kevin Durant averaged 14 points, shot 58% from the field, 61% from three. Devin Booker averaged 11 points per game, shot 56% from the field, 61% from three. Jrue Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders on planet Earth, averaged 8 points per game, shot 59% from the field, 50% from three. Which of those five, Anthony Edwards averaged 14 points a game, shot 6% from the field, 46% from three. Jayson Tatum played 20 minutes per game in those 3 games that he played a ton of, right? So not including the France game. He averaged 6 points per game, shot 39% from the field, did not make a three. Jason Tim brought up a really good point. So Synergy has access to all of the exhibitions the Team USA played as well. Jayson Tatum shot 0 for 18
interesting.
on jump shots over the course of his time with Team USA throughout the entirety of this thing. And again, that to me is not a slight on Jayson Tatum. This is a dude that probably doesn't have legs right now because his body has been kind of run through the ringer here over the last 3 years, especially this year where he didn't get a break, right? So I say all this to say, I don't think that Jayson Tatum was set up for success at this Olympics. I also don't think Steve Kerr did the wrong thing here by not playing him. Oh, by the way, when he was on the court, he was not great. The numbers you can look at, but I don't know. Like I thought when he was on the court, Team USA was playing like a very, ball movement centric, share the ball style. And I thought he kind of held onto the ball a decent amount and kind of stopped it a little bit. And the game moved a little bit slower when he was out there. And again, that's not a slight on him. It's a comment on what Boston has had him become, right? They utilize floor spacing and shooting so extensively that he always has these massive driving lanes to be able to navigate and to be able to get to the rim, be able to get to the mid-range, everything like that. He has become much more of a slasher driver over the last couple of years, even than what he was when he was younger, right? Like he can still make pull-up jumpers. I know it abandoned him over the last few years in the playoffs, or the last few months. I'm sorry, not last few years, over the last few months in the playoffs and at the Olympics, but like, he's fine. You know what I mean? Like he'll shoot it at some point again. Like I'm not real worried about that. I felt like when he was in the game at the Olympics, the teams felt like they didn't have to worry about him as much as a shooter. And I felt like he kind of held the ball a little bit longer than what everybody else did out there because of what he is asked to do within the Boston offense, and having to rewire your brain on the fly in that way very quickly it's hard. It's really hard. So I don't think anybody did anything wrong here. I think Jayson Tatum, seemed like he was ready to go whenever his number was called. And I don't think Steve Kerr was wrong to not play him because it felt like they were better without him.
I'll listen to the conversation of Tatum playing over a few guys. I just don't think it's egregious. I don't think people should be up in arms that Tatum was, you know what I mean? I'll listen to it. You think he should have played over Derek White? Let's have the conversation. You think in certain matchups he should have played over Bam and played him at the 4 or something?
So like,
I'll listen.
That's the one. That's the one where it's like, okay, Team USA decided to play 2 bigs. Is their bench unit, right? They played Bam and AD together.
Yeah.
I will certainly hear out that you could have played Jayson Tatum at the 4 in that strategy. I think it's completely reasonable to do that. It's certainly what I would have started with if I was Steve Kerr as the coach. I'm not sitting here telling you that I, think that it's egregious that he didn't do that.
Yeah.
And on top of it, this is where the FIBA stuff does matter, right? This is where the rules matter. Given what I said about Jayson Tatum having become over the last few years more of a slasher, more of a driver to the rim, I think that the FIBA rule set probably was a bit more of an adjustment for him right now at this point in his career than it probably was for other players. People will go back and say Jayson Tatum, was incredible at the last Olympics, and he was their second best player very clearly behind Kevin Durant at their last Olympics. His role within Boston structure, I think, has changed pretty drastically over the course of that time. He has become more of a driving, slashing player over that time who tries to get to the rim a bit more often than what he used to be as more of like a pull-up mid-range, pull-up three-point shooter. And I'm not sitting here saying that anybody is wrong for doing this. I don't think Tatum is wrong for having developed his game that way. I don't think Boston is wrong for utilizing him that way. But having literally just come from June, 20th or whatever, when the finals ended, playing this style of basketball, being more of like an interior driver, going into FIBA basketball where there's no defensive 3 seconds, where you can play two bigs and be a great rim protection team at all times if you want to be. I could see a world where that's a bit harder of an adjustment timeline wise for Tatum than it was for other guys. And on top of it, I can see a case where if he is not at his 100% best, having that rim protection out there that Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis together bring could be more valuable to you as a team in that specific setting. I think the FIBA rule set probably went against what Tatum has become over the course of the last couple of years a little bit more. He's going to be fine for the next Olympics. Like, it's just that whenever you already have this many ball dominant dudes out there, say, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, guys who are
Anthony Edwards, quite honestly, in the minutes he was playing a lot. Joel is a ball dominant big.
For sure. Joel is a ball dominant big, and Joel takes up a lot of space out there as well on the interior when he's there. So I don't think people should overreact to any of this. And like, he had that quote after, he was like, look, we'll see how it goes. Like, I'll have to see how I'm feeling in 4 years in terms of whether or not I play the Olympics. I think people should just like chill and like relax. Like, I don't think that that statement was, I'm not playing the Olympics, I'm pissed, I'm frustrated. I think Jayson Tatum was probably like, fuck, I've just played like 3 crazy long seasons in a row. I just had a kid. I just won my second Olympic gold medal. I don't want to think about 2028 right now. You know what I mean? So I think people have just like so drastically overreacted to this thing. And it's become like a very strange talking point to me.
Tatum also only played 8 less minutes than Derek White, 13 less total minutes than Joel Embiid in these Olympics. 13 total less minutes than Joel Embiid. And here's the thing, the FIBA, and I know we're going to talk about the FIBA rules in general. It's only a 40-minute game, Sam. And these are dudes that are used to playing very long stretches of basketball before they get subbed out. These guys are not built to play 5 minutes at a time and then go sit for 10 minutes of play and then come back in. That's not kind of most of their normal rotations and how they stagger minutes. I was arguing for Kerr to play less dudes, not more. I think it's impossible to play 11 guys in a 40-minute game and find any sort of rhythm, chemistry, anything like that. And at the end of the day, the rest of the world has gotten too good to just play around. And hey, you know what? Chemistry doesn't matter. Getting, these guys in the flow doesn't matter. It matters now. We saw it. Like, they almost lost to Serbia. If Jokic makes a couple threes, I think they lose that game. I was looking up that earlier. Him and Bogdanovic actually were 3 of 16 from 3 in that game. As bad as and as close as that was, it could have been even worse. And you talked about France missing some threes as well. So I just don't think they can play around with that stuff. I wanted to see him go to a 7-8 man rotation in the second half of the Serbia game. I would have been fine with that. So I don't think what Steve Kerr did, I don't think everything was perfect. I don't think it's an easy position to be in. I don't think it was egregious. Here's the other thing. At the end of the day, all these guys are great. And when you're a coach, you develop trust with guys. And I'm not saying this is Tatum's fault, but it just happens usually organically, and you default to the guys you trust, to the style of play, to the substitution patterns. People can disagree with it, but I don't think it was a slight to Jayson Tatum that some of these other guys were playing minutes and he wasn't. I don't think it was egregious. I don't think it should be this level of a talking point for me.
And honestly, like, I think it's kind of a slight to those dudes, like, also on the team who are fucking incredible basketball players, to be like, oh my God, like, this dude who, based on his play, didn't come in and earn it, right? He shot 39% from the field, 0% from three, averaged fewer points per game than Jrue Holiday did in very similar game time. Like, I think it's kind of a slight to those guys to say, oh yeah, like Jayson Tatum, like, should automatically like walk into a spot. Like, you come in and earn it like everybody else does, I think. And for myriad reasons that we talked about at the top, I think it's very possible that Jayson Tatum was not at his best in this tournament, and that's fine. And we don't need to like overreact to it in any way, shape, or form. But that does lead into 2028 for Team USA. This is the fun conversation, right? Is trying to figure out who's going to be on the 2028 Olympics roster. And we're going to look really stupid here trying to figure this out because this is going to be a significant changing of the guard.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Sure.
Like LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, I think all pretty unlikely to be there. If you told me Kevin Durant is still so good that he's there, it wouldn't blow my mind.
I
right?
mean, are we going to, here's the thing. Here's some things.
We're not discounting any of these dudes, but I think it's unlikely.
Some things not to put caps on. Wembanyama's ceiling, LeBron James, number of years played in the NBA, and Kevin Durant points scored. Like those, let's not put a cap on those things. Let's just not do it. So KD, I feel as much as I love Steph, I assume he probably won't. KD and LeBron, just like, who freaking knows, man.
Okay. Joel Embiid will be 34. Anthony Davis will be 35. Jrue Holiday will be 38. I think it's very unlikely on Jrue at the very least who won't be there.
I don't think there's any way Joel plays.
I would be surprised if Joel was there too. I would be a little bit surprised if AD is there, given just like the injuries and everything like that has continued to accumulate over the course of his career. So
I agree.
LeBron, KD, Steph, Joel, AD, Jrue, all gone already. Derek White as well, I believe, will be like 34, 35, somewhere in that ballpark. So we can probably remove him. So that's 7 guys gone.
Derek White is older. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Derek White entered the league at like 24 or 23, something like that. So, let's start with this. Devin Booker, I think, will be there. Jayson Tatum, I think, will be there. Like, I'm going to say that both of those two are on this team.
Agreed.
Sound right? I think Anthony Edwards will be there as well.
I think that's your core. Those are the core 3 for me. That's who I have. Edwards, Booker, Tatum.
Yep. The other 2 guys here are Tyrese Halliburton and Bam Adebayo. Given that Bam has been there for Team USA, like across the board, will still only be 31 years old, I am guessing that Bam will be there, and I am guessing that Tyrese Halliburton will be there as well.
And the thing with Bam is, we'll get into this, the center position is interesting for Team USA in 2028 whenever you remove the guys we've already talked about. And so I think it'll be important for Team USA that Bam is willing and able.
So all due respect to AD and Joel, right? 34 and 35 years old. I would love to see AD there. Sure. I think it would be amazing if AD was there. I'm just like a little bit more skeptical of it.
Yep.
So we're starting with Booker, Ant, Tatum, Bam, Halliburton.
Yep.
Okay. Who are your next most likely guys, you think?
So I think Paolo has just been groomed to be a part of this,
Yes.
right? And so I think he's an obvious answer here.
Paulo was the backup center on the World Cup team last year. I think Paulo is fairly likely to be there. Who next?
So here's the names I want to try to figure out, because I actually did this. I tried to build out that those are your core on ball usage, bucket getters, all of that. I want to talk about and discuss adding some more 3-and-D quote unquote role players around them. But before we do that, we need to see if we're going to so here are the names: Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, Trae Young, John Morant.
Okay. So I think I will be interested to see on Brunson. Brunson right now, coming off the season that he had, I think is like an obvious selection, right? I think like there's a case that Brunson should have been there over Halliburton on some level. Halliburton played better at the World Cup last time. And I do kind of wonder a little bit about how Brunson's game kind of scales to the FIBA side a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's pencil in Brunson. Brunson will be 31 at that point. So not like the youngest guy in the world. But I think it's worth penciling him in. You mentioned Maxey as well. I think Maxey is one that like is certainly on the maybe list. Let's go with, right?
Yep.
Like Maxey, I think, is someone that could be there. I think Mikal Bridges is another guy that like was on that team last time.
I was getting ready to get there.
Let's hold off on the role players.
Yeah,
maybe let's go with like the all-stars.
Yeah, what the names I've given are in the last 2 seasons, guys that averaged 25 points and 5 assists. So I'm looking at like your offensive hubs, your offensive initiators, and those were the names I threw out. So like someone like, how important do you think, one, I don't think Trae Young probably makes it, like we've been down that path. Maxey, Fox, Morant in the FIBA game, does their speed, explosion, ability to attack the rim, is that something Team USA needs? Is it less valuable? Does it give you the transition opportunity? How do we just feel about their style of play in general? I know Maxey can shoot it a little bit. We saw De'Aaron shoot it well at times, and then it trickled off. But
so I would guess that Team USA will take 2 of Halliburton, Brunson, Maxey, Fox, Morant. I don't think they'll take more than that. I think that they will take like guys who are switchable and athletic and long and everything like that at a greater level than they will take a third of that group. And that's a hard group to parse through. Yeah. That's those guys are all incredible basketball players.
Is there an argument that Maxey is the best of the group in terms of FIBA play because of the shooting?
I think there's a case that he could be the best at that point in his career. Yeah. I think there's a case for it for sure. Yeah. Brunson can also shoot. So like, you know, to me, like Brunson is not quite as good of a shooter, but he's a real shooter. Let's leave.
I'm discounting.
Let's put Brunson in and put Halliburton in because Halliburton's there already. That gets us to 7 with Paulo.
Okay. So then you want me to give you some of the role players?
No, I want to go to the big position next.
Okay.
Because we have a bunch of wings, right? Like we have Edwards, Tatum, Booker already. We only have one big. Well, we have 2 bigs, I guess, with Paulo. But like Paulo is also like a wingish big who can do a lot of different things.
Yeah. Chet.
To me, it's like very obviously Chet over Evan Mobley right now.
Correct.
And that's like no disrespect to Evan Mobley, but in terms of the international game where rim protection and 3-point shooting is more valuable than like flying around and help defense from like a non-shooter. And Evan Mobley's incredible. Like he's an unbelievable NBA caliber defender. or like NBA defender in that rule set. I think Chet's skill set translates better to FIBA play than what Evan Mobley's does.
I agree 100%.
But Evan Mobley is definitely on the list of guys that could be there.
Yeah.
The other guy that like I have not seen anybody list, by the way, in like conversations like this.
Can I throw out a name? Let me throw out 2 names to see if it would. Miles Turner and Derek Lively.
I think Miles will probably be a little old at that point, unless I'm like screwing up how old Miles is. Miles will be 32.
I try to keep the list to anybody that was currently under 30 is whenever I like did my looks.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted neither for what it's worth. I don't have Miles on here. Those were just the couple of the next couple of names. So who were you going to say?
Jaren Jackson, who's been with Team USA previously and is
course.
still only 24 years old.
Yeah. I just didn't know like if that was a, hey, we've been there, the rebounding stuff, we're not going back to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that that's the reality of the situation, but like Jaren Jackson also is like an incredible defender that averages 22 points per game and shoots threes, right? Like he's definitely on my maybe list here. He will still only be 28, and I think he is like clearly ahead of Mobley in the pecking order, at least. If we're going bigs.
I would agree, I think. Yeah, I just think, the floor spacing archetype of big, I think with these bigs, you're really going to have to ask for rebounding from your wings and guards. Like that's going to have to be an emphasis for these guys.
I think that is true. Okay, so we have 8 right now with Booker, Tatum, Edwards, Bam, Halliburton, Banchero, Brunson, Holmgren. That's 8, right? Yep.
Wait, say that again. Ant, Booker, Tatum, Chet, Halliburton, Brunson, Banchero. 8. Okay. Yep.
Booker. I think you missed there as well.
Yeah. Okay, so
do we go to like the young? Do we want to say Jaylen Brown too? Like Jaylen Brown will only be 31 at that point.
Yeah. I just wondered where that relation, like where all of that was at.
Yeah.
I
don't know what to do with that.
Like we're at a point too where I'm like, I think this is where for me, I would start adding in dudes who don't need to play with the ball in the hand, that just really space the floor, decent defenders, all like essentially what I did is I went and looked at guys that shot 38% from 3 on 5+ 3-point attempts. And those are the names I jotted down.
So I have a couple other, I want to go to like the young stars next and then do role players after that.
Okay, perfect.
So the young stars, potential young stars, some of these guys are stars, some of them are not yet. Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Brandon Miller.
He was one. Yeah.
I think Brandon Miller is like the guy that I'm probably going to push for pretty hard.
I was going to say, yeah.
So Zion will still only be 28 at that point. I don't know that he's like a FIBA guy.
Yeah, I agree.
But nonetheless, and then Jalen Williams is the other guy.
I had all of those names down other than I didn't write Zion down. And listen, people will know how much I love Cade Cunningham and think he's awesome. I think with the other guards we have on the team, I just don't think it makes as much sense. I think Brandon Miller is the name that makes the most sense of the ones you just said.
I also kind of want to put Brandon Miller on this team.
For what it's worth,
the 2 guys for me there that like really stand out
or J-Dub.
You're Jalen Williams and Brandon Miller purely for FIBA play.
Agreed.
I also think Cade, like I would go Cade over Scotty for this as well, personally.
I agree with that also.
The only reason again is like FIBA play is very different than NBA play where the driving lanes are smaller. Like Scotty Barnes in college, for instance, it was hard for him to like find driving lanes and like the ability to like navigate tight creases kind of.
So that's the Cade argument, because I will tell people this: if there's one guy that's had to figure out scoring the basketball without a ton of spacing so far in his career, it is Cade Cunningham. And yeah, I mean, again, I think Cade is awesome. He's been part of Team USA prep in the past. I just don't know, like, you already have Ant, Booker, Halliburton, Brunson. Is the, Banchero plays with the ball at time. Is that the best use of that spot to bring in another primarily on-ball guy? That would be my only reason not to say
Who
Cade.
doesn't shoot it super well as
So far.
well.
Yeah, correct.
So far. The two guys for me that fit best in terms of potential, like, scale up, scale down possibilities are Jalen Williams and Brandon Miller.
I agree.
There.
I do agree with that.
So that's 10.
So
And you wanted to go the role players.
So you had Miller and Williams. So yeah, like, I just wanted to throw out the names. I'm throwing out names. People don't freak out. Mikal Bridges, Jalen Suggs, Keegan Murray, Desmond Bane, Herb Jones, Jaden McDaniels.
One more I'm going to throw in is Trey Murphy as well.
And Trey Murphy was the very next name I had that on my list. So
yep.
Herb and Jaden obviously didn't come from the 38% from three on 5+ 3-point attempts, but the defense speaks for itself there.
Are you calling him Herb? Like, are you seasoning chicken right now?
I'm sorry. I just do it naturally because I think it sounds cool. It's no disrespect. I just think Herb sounds cool. It's fun to say. I'm sorry. I apologize to Herb Jones. I'm so sorry. It's just how I think it sounds cool. My bad. I'm so sorry. 38% on 5+ 3-point attempts was Bane, Suggs, Bridges, and Keegan Murray. I also think, especially with Suggs, the defense, Bridges, the defense in that role. And we've talked about Keegan Murray, at least, like, he's going to be asked to play that defensive role in Sacramento moving forward. So those were the names I came up with.
Yeah. Interesting group.
Who do you
Mikal, I think, is a little
bit
older than what people think.
He is, but I think just 31 by this time. Is that right? He's 27 now. Yeah. Oh, he's about to turn 28, but
he'll be 31, 32 right at that time.
Yeah.
Did you say Suggs in there?
I did. I think Suggs is a sneaky, if his trajectory stays and he really shoots it, that's like the Derek White role that we saw this year, Jrue Holiday, like that type of role from him. Bridges and Suggs were actually the two that I liked the most.
The other weird one that I think more fits as, like, role player-y is, and, like, you could have put him in the future star bucket or the role player-y bucket. I kind of put him in the role player-y bucket, is Amen.
I have him on the list. I had him right below Brandon Miller on my list of, like, youngsters who you'd want to see growth from. And before people yell at me, Herb Jones has, he shot 42% on almost 4 attempts this year. So, I mean, if that shooting stays with Jones, I think he makes a ton of sense for the team if we see that same type of floor spacing over the next 4 years.
I think I want to see where his shot settles this year, but he is absolutely a contender. Trey Murphy, I think, is absolutely a contender, was on the select team. Like, he's been there. They've taken guys like this before. Like, Cam Johnson is a guy that they've taken to USA events before. Big shooters, etc. You mentioned Bane. Bane is certainly a guy that I think tracks as somebody that could fit. I mean, like, seriously, if Reed Shepherd is a 50% 3-point shooter,
so I wrote,
like, they've taken guys like that before is kind of the thing.
I put him, I put Klingon down just because the big position is so, I mean, and listen, remember, people, we're projecting 4 years out. You got, like, though, I put those names down as, like, very much lower, but guys that I think, depending on how the next 4 years plays out, could be interesting. Another name I put down, Brandon Pajemski, because I'm like, what about a dude?
Honestly,
if he really shoots it, runs around, takes a couple charges, grabs some rebounds, all of that stuff. So that was another name I just put in there.
The other name that we have to mention is Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg has gone to the select team and has played really well in those environments. and is the potential 2025 number 1 overall pick, right? That's one name from guys currently not in the NBA that like I will mention. I think DeBanza will probably still be too young
Yeah.
to do that. I think he's like actually right around Cooper's age. I think he's like half a year younger, but like he's not as far along, I think, as Cooper quite is yet. Yeah. The last guy that we haven't mentioned, I believe, is Donovan Mitchell.
I said him whenever we were talking.
Did you?
Max.
Okay.
I threw it out and then we kind of left it.
So Mitchell has played Team USA before, obviously. Had an incredible season this year. Will still only be 31 years old, about to turn 32 next cycle. I'm like a little bit worried about just like the injuries kind of continuing to eat him up a little bit, right? Like I'm just like a little bit concerned about that. I don't know what to do with him. I guess is kind of where I'm at.
I was the same way. I mean, he was in that same conversation of all those guards we kind of mentioned, and I'm with you that you're taking probably just a couple of those because I think you do need a spot at the guard position for whether it's Jalen Suggs or somebody else, the role player guard archetype, as opposed to just another primary on-ball guy.
So where I'm at on this roster based on what, how we've done this is I think that they probably would take one more guard, having looked at this. So far, bigs wise, we have Bam, Paulo, and Chet. So I think we're probably okay at the center position, right? You would agree?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I was moving stuff around
Okay.
on my spreadsheet.
Tatum can play down at the 4. Jalen Williams can play down at the 4. I mean, would we maybe want, I think we'd want like another guy who could maybe slide down to the 4 or be like a 4-5 hybrid, which almost makes me want to go Jaren, but like, I'm not totally sure there. I think that looking at this roster, I would bet that it's hard. I kind of think that they would take one more like real guard, kind of looking at this roster.
See, I'm thinking you're going to have to cut a guard out. I think the guard is just Ant, Booker, Halliburton, Brunson, or substitute Maxey in for Brunson, or whatever. Is what I'm thinking. I would like, as much as I would want somebody that defends a little more, which I mean, honestly, Ant and Booker, Ant especially could, like, he has real on-ball defensive capabilities, and you should be good defensively on the wing, and behind them. So then in the
with J-Dub, with Tatum, with
so who are the wing?
Maybe you do want one more like great defensive wing. I think that is like the right way to do it, is like one more great defensive wing.
So you put so at the wing forward you would have Tatum, Bridges, Brandon Miller, J-Dub, and then that's where Herb Jones goes.
Herb might be an interesting call here.
And then you'd have Chet, Paolo, and Bam as your big.
I mean, the question is like, do they take Cooper Flagg as the defensive wing? It is like the 4, right?
Yeah, that's true. Naturally can play the 4 spot there.
It is so aggressive to take Cooper Flagg over Jaylen Brown to me, though. It is remarkably aggressive to do that. I can't really do that, I don't think.
So that would put, again, the guard room would be Ant, Booker, Halliburton, and Brunson. The wing forward room would be Tatum, Brown, Bridges, Miller, J-Dub, and the bigs would be Chet, Bam, and Paolo.
I think Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I said Brown. Tatum and Brown.
Yeah. I think we put Jaylen Brown. So that's 11.
That's 12.
Brown, Miller, Williams, that's 3. Holmgren, Brunson, Banchero, that's 6. Halliburton, Adebayo, Edwards, that's 9. Tatum and Booker is 10. Did you put Herb on?
No.
Okay. That's 11. I'm sorry. So we have one more spot.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I must have somebody on that you don't. Oh, you may not have Bridges on. Do you have Mikal Bridges on?
I do not have Mikal Bridges on.
Oh, okay. That's where we only have 11.
Yeah. I'm thinking no to Mikal Bridges. I think Herb over
Oh.
Mikal Bridges, honestly,
Okay.
at that point. The question now is, I think this is like a wild card spot, kind of. Like we have the
Sure.
guards, we have the wings, we have the bigs. And it's really just like, who do you want to take that you think can be like a difference maker, like impact player in some way, shape, or form? I am almost. Do we think we have enough shot creation? Would be my question. Booker, Tatum, Edwards, Halliburton, Brunson, probably, right?
I mean,
And
there's
Jaylen Brown.
I was gonna say, and there's a little bit of projection
J-Dub.
here with J-Dub, right? That
Yeah.
that continues to grow, and we know he's not gonna be the primary guy there, but I think both of us believe he could be the stagger and the second unit guy whenever SGA is off the floor.
Yeah. Honestly, Herb Jones is not a bad.
If he shoots,
It's like a defensive, like, swing guy. It's one of those things though, like if Herb's shot falls off a cliff, we're gonna look really fucking stupid for having Herb like anywhere near this thing.
That's true.
Especially over like Scotty Barnes. You know what I mean? Like, but Scotty isn't quite the defender that people think he is, like on the ball. He's like a roaming, floating defender. I almost think like I'm good with Jaren here.
As it just have another big.
Yeah, like a roaming defender, because Jaren can switch, like he can do
And he
a
can
lot
shoot
of
it.
different. And
Yeah.
he can shoot.
That's probably right.
Right. Like that
Yeah.
feels to me like, so, you're looking at a starting lineup basically of Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Jayson Tatum,
Brown or Banchero?
Yeah, good question.
I feel like with the bigs we've brought now, I don't know that you need to play Banchero at the 5 as much.
Yeah, it could just be like Paulo at the 4 and Bam at the 5 to start.
I would say,
And then you have Halliburton, Brunson, J-Dub,
Jaylen Brown,
and Chet.
And
is
Triple
your next two.
and
And then Triple J is kind of floating off the bench as like
Insurance.
a, insurance problem solver everywhere. And then you have
Brandon Miller.
Brandon Miller is your extra guy that you're taking.
Yeah.
I dig that. I like that. So yeah, our 12 are Jayson Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker, Paulo Banchero, Bam Adebayo, Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Jalen Williams, Jaylen Brown, Chet Holmgren, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Brandon Miller. That feels good to me.
And as bad, like where Halliburton and Brunson aren't good defensively, you would have, if you staggered 5 for 5, you would have Jaylen Brown, J-Dub, and Chet or Triple J as the other 3 defenders on the floor with them to help make up for, their lack of. And then you have obviously shot creation with those 2 guys and 3 pretty good play finishers in Brown, Williams, Chet. Again, if it's Brandon Miller or Triple J.
Yeah, that feels good to me. I'm in on this. So like the guys that we're apologizing to profusely, and like I feel bad. I feel particularly bad about Maxey and Donovan Mitchell. De'Aaron Fox is, there's still a lot of guards that are great. Like he's very much in the mix. Ja Morant could be in the mix. Who knows? Evan Mobley. Certainly, I think the guy I feel worse about is probably Scotty Barnes, but I just worry how his game scales to FIBA.
Yeah.
Like Scotty Barnes is probably a top 15 player in the world at that point. but I don't know how well it works. Like, I think he's a top 15 player in the world in an NBA rule set by that point for sure.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't know how that translates necessarily. Cade Cunningham, I feel bad. Cade has performed well for Team USA at every stop so far. Cooper Flagg could make us look dumb and just like say, screw this, I'm making this team at 21 years old and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, I'm into this. This is fun. This is a good group.
Cool.
This is a really good group. Let's see if anybody in the chat has somebody that we like haven't talked about. Darius Garland. That's a name, but like I don't really know that I see that.
I think the wing room and the big room, if you were creative with the big room or really had an argument, is the place you can make a dent. I find it hard to believe there's a guard that we haven't already mentioned. Like, is there a guard that's going to pass Maxey, Fox, Morant, Mitchell, and we don't even have those guys. We don't even have those guys on the team. Is my point. So
yeah,
there might be some wing forwards out there that could be interesting names. Scotty being one.
We brought up Jalen Suggs. Like that could be the Derek White next time.
Yeah,
would be Jalen Suggs if you want like another ball handler potentially too. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Reed Shepard we mentioned. Jabari Smith Jr. Like I'm still a Jabari guy. I don't know if he's going to be.
I had him on my list, and then I looked up the numbers, and I was like, he hasn't proven it enough yet. But I think he's an interesting name. If over the next 4 years he becomes what a lot of people thought pre-draft, he really shoots it, the defense, all of that, it could make sense in that way.
Honestly, I think he might be more 2032.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because like he'll still only be 29 in 2032.
Yep.
So yeah, like that could be an interesting one. People could pass him as well if we're talking about that. Derek Lively is a good name.
I brought up Lively.
Jaime Jaquez is one. He was really good with the select team. It's another. If we're using the select team for other guys, Jaime Jaquez is a name for the select team. I don't think he'll quite get there, but who knows? People have brought up Jalen Duren for this. I don't understand that at all. Bryce.
What? I don't have a comment.
We could take the Villanova guys. We could just go DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. Bring them all.
Listen, Dante made the list. The list of guys that shot 38% from three on 5 attempts was really interesting, and DiVincenzo was obviously one of those names. So
yeah, LaMelo Ball. I don't see that for FIBA play personally. 2-ball dominant for what it is. Let's see here. Let's see. Anybody else? Caruso will be, I think, too old at that point.
I say
right?
He's already 30.
Yeah,
30.
Caruso will be 34 at that point.
Yeah,
so I think he's too old.
I say I only looked at names less than 30 right now, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it as well. Yeah, Pods you brought up. That was a good call. De'Aaron Fox, did we maybe bring up? Not enough.
We probably didn't talk about him enough, but I mean, again, it's just tough whenever we're already talking Maxey not being there and Morant not being there and Donovan Mitchell not being there. So
yeah. I don't know. I think we've got everybody. Cam Boozer is another younger guy, but I don't really see that. Walker Kessler was on the World Cup team, so like should at least bring him up, I guess. But yeah, that feels like the right group. Austin Reeves was on the World Cup team as well.
Yeah, true.
That's like a potential like 12th man spot, I think for sure. But yeah, worth noting Reeves probably just because he's been there with the World Cup team at least.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other team I wanted to talk about is France. I think a lot of people are assuming that France is like a real contender against Team USA next cycle. And I don't want to dismiss that. I think that France's team is going to be like drastically younger than what people think next cycle. Like if everybody,
I was just looking at
like
current players in the NBA, they're young.
Yeah, like if all the guys that make the team, like Alex Sarr, Zach Rissachet, Salon, like those guys are all going to be like 22, 23 years old.
Dottier, Bilal,
Yeah, Bilal is still only going to be like 24 next cycle. He's
Rupert.
like a ways away to
Yeah.
me. Nolan Traore is like the guard that people are thinking is going to take the leap, right? Nolan Traore is still only going to be like 22 years old during that cycle. And I think Traore is awesome, but
And if you guys haven't seen it, we did a video breakdown. Make sure you go check that out over
go
on the
check that
YouTube.
out. Yeah, it's up on the YouTube channel. We pulled it out into a pool video, just do Nolan Traore scouting report at the top, right? But like their guard play is like very bad right now. Their guard play is ultimately what kind of cost them the game against Team USA to me. As much as I love Traore, I just worry that like 22-year-old Nolan Traore having to go against like, Anthony Edwards, if Jalen Suggs is on that team, like Jalen Suggs ball pressure, certainly maybe that's where we screwed up. Like maybe we should have taken like a guard with like better ball pressure defensively instead of Brunson and Halliburton. But regardless, like you could take like De'Aaron Fox and just like unleash him on defense, but he'll be 30 at that point. A lot of different guys, right? Like they have a lot of their older guard of DiColo and Fournier and like everybody kind of aging out. Batum has said that this is his last cycle, right? I think people really, really underestimate the value of experience when it comes to like FIBA basketball and just having like gone through the different rule sets and everything like that and being comfortable, and are just assuming that like Salon and Rissachet and everybody's going to be ready. And like, I just don't know that I'm there.
Yabusele will also be 33 by the time we get to 2028. Like he was really, really good in that game. And I was thinking he was younger than what he is. But again, like he's going to be in almost his mid 30s by the time that one comes around. So, he may be, I assume he'll be on the team, but he may not be like the same thing that we saw this Olympics.
Yeah. Like honestly, like a guy that I'm assuming will be on France's team is Nadir Heafy. We've talked about him when we did the summer league show, but 25 years old, like point guard who can really score, like he'll do stuff, but like he was at summer league for a reason this year, right? Like he's not quite there. So I think they are a very, very genuine chance to win the gold in 2032. Like I would bet that they are almost even odds with Team USA in 2032 to win the gold, because Wemby will be the best player in the world at that point. It will be 28, will be in his prime, and they'll have all these other dudes like pretty ready, I would guess.
Yeah.
2028, I think Team USA is like very clearly still the obvious like number one option here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes, like you say, you look at the names and they're just all so young, and you go through the USA team. I mean, Ant, Booker, Tatum, Bam, like all those guys have been through it. If Brunson's on the team, he's in his 30s. Brown, experienced, it really, Chet, Jada, Brandon, like those guys, it's three guys, it's a few guys that have an experience. I get, Paolo, but there's a lot of experience in terms of Olympic play on that team, along with just age and experience in that way. So yeah, when you first brought this up, I was like, no, that's kind of, what do you mean? Like they're going to be good, a lot of talent, like all of these names,
they'll be good for sure.
But I understand your point of like, maybe it's not ready to really go win the gold just yet.
The other team that I think is ahead of, like, I think this team's ahead of France. I think Canada will be ahead of France next cycle still.
Okay.
Because Shea will be there. They'll have Lou Dort. They'll have Edie, who will be a monster in FIBA play. Like, I don't know that people are quite calibrating well enough how good Zach is going to be with FIBA play, where there's, again, no defensive 3 seconds, and Zach can like really just camp out and do what he needs to in the paint. I think France is very likely to still be ahead of, or I think Canada is very likely to be ahead of France at that point. Still, Jamal Murray will still be there. who else?
SGA, Lou Dort, Nip, like the guard position is
Nemhard. Yeah.
awesome. So here's like Shaden Sharp.
Shaden Sharp will be there. That's a really good call too. Hadn't thought about him.
Yeah, Shaden Sharp.
Your guy.
RJ Barrett, Benedict Mathurin, Omax.
Yep, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Canada is still ahead of France next cycle, but 2032, I think France is legit very, very, very competitive for a gold, like
Yeah.
exceedingly so for a potential gold medal.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. This Canadian team is still going to be pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I've got on the Olympics.
Cool.
At this point. You have a trivia question.
Okay,
Bryce?
yes. Let me ask.
This is going to be a go ahead.
So, are we going to do trivia, and then are you still going to have me ask the question, or can we do the Team USA coach and throw out Bryce ask Sam a question, but still do the trivia? Do you want to talk Team USA coach?
Let's do Team USA. To me, Team USA coach is just going to be Spoelstra. Like, okay. I don't even know that it's like a.
I wanted to have a Dan Hurley conversation here.
I'm open to it, but like, I don't know if Dan's really been involved with Team USA all that much.
I wonder.
I think they would go few over Hurley at this point.
Okay.
Just because he's been involved. Like, I'm not saying that Mark is a better coach than Dan, but like, Few is on the bench right now. Like, he's been there for cycles upon cycles. Like, if we're going with a college coach, I would bet you that Few would get it before Hurley.
Yeah.
Right now.
I just thought I just want to kind of have some fun with it, just because a lot of the complaints people had about Kerr, I'm like, okay, let's throw in a maniac, like, in the best way possible. Let's throw in Dan Hurley and let's let him go at these guys and see what happens. So,
to me, it's Spo though. Like, it's just very obviously should be Spoelstra.
Okay, let's do the trivia, and then if we want to do the question, we can do the question.
Yep.
The Bryce asked him. Okay,
Bryce trivia time, folks. Where Bryce asks me a trivia question and I look stupid. It's going to be great.
We need a sponsor just for this because this is a lot of fun. So 2023-24 regular season, no games played limit on this because all four guys played 60+ games. 3-point percentage. Okay, there's three things. 3-point percentage greater than equal to 38%. 3-point attempts greater than equal to 4, and blocks per game greater than or equal to 1.0. 4 players.
Okay, so Chet.
No.
Oh, Chet was below 38.
I don't think Chet. Yeah, Chet did not shoot the percentage. He was at 37%.
Oh, that's a shame. Miles Turner.
Miles Turner is not one of the names. I will look up where, obviously he had the blocks. So let's see where Miles
Aaron
Turner.
Jackson would be my other one.
So Miles Turner shot 36% from 3. Okay. Jaren Jackson is not an answer either. I will give you some hints if that's all you have.
The last guy is going to be, I'm going to say Herb Jones would be my guess, because I think he got to a block per game.
Herb Jones is not the answer. Herb Jones did not take enough attempts per game and also didn't average a block. Okay, let me help you out a little bit.
Derek White?
Derek White is one of the answers. Very good. Derek White shot 39.6% on almost 7 attempts and averaged 1.2 blocks per game.
Okay.
Yeah. You want a hint or you want another? You want to go again? I don't want to ruin it for you.
So I know Suggs was at like 40% on like 5 attempts. I don't know if he got to a block. Did Suggs get to a block per game?
He did not. 0.6.
Okay.
So
let's go back to bigs. KP.
Kristaps was not.
Really?
I'm pulling the numbers. Kristaps shot 38%, 37.5%. Excuse me. 37.5. I didn't do it on purpose. Like, it's just the way it happened. 37.5.
Okay, so I have Derek White.
So Another one is a guard that is known for his defense.
A guard known for his defense. So Nikhil?
Not Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Think of the best guard defender.
Like Jrue doesn't block a shot per game.
Yeah. Nikhil did not get a block a game. This player got traded this summer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't think Caruso got to a block per game.
Alex Caruso. Exactly.
He got to a block per game?
1 block per game for Alex Caruso. Shot 40.8% on 4.7 attempts. So
I knew that he gets the 3 number.
The other 2 players are big, are tall. One is
my other guess was McDaniels.
Jaden McDaniels is not correct.
Okay.
One of the answers is an Olympian and is very tall. Jaden McDaniels didn't have the shooting numbers.
Yeah, I don't think Victor shot 38 from 3.
A USA Olympian.
A USA Olympian who's very tall.
It's probably 7 foot.
Oh, Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant, 41.3% on 5.4 attempts, 1.2 blocks. I don't think you'll ever get the 4th one.
Is it Towns?
Here's what I'll say. It is an older big who doesn't even start.
Kelly Olynyk?
No, that's a really good answer, though. KO. KO didn't have the blocks. Actually, didn't shoot it. Let's see. Yeah. Why is KO only taking 2 3-point attempts a game this last season?
He was in some weird spots in Utah.
Yeah.
Very
old big, but very good.
Horford?
Yeah. Al Horford. Great poll, Sam. Al Horford averaged.
I knew he shot the 3s. I wasn't sure if he got to the block number.
So, I mean, in fairness to you, Caruso and Horford averaged exactly 1 block per game. Derek White and KD both average 1.2.
Yeah. I mean, it took me like 12 guesses to get to 4 guys, but
that one was
I feel okay about that one. It
was
was kind of a trick one because like the obvious guys like Chet, Jaren, and like
KP.
Victor and KP, like those guys didn't get there. Weirdly.
So
that's a really fun one because like the obvious names are not there.
Yeah, no, I wish there was a way for me to do this on Twitter, but it doesn't work in a Twitter poll. So no. I guess I could just ask and let people guess, but no, that's when I thought of it. Cause I'm like, I try to think of obscure stats, right? Ones that don't always connect. And when I did this one, I was expecting some more obvious big guy names, like you were talking Miles Turner, those guys.
Yeah.
And so then when it was Caruso, Derek White, Kevin, I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is perfect.
Well, what it says to me too is that like the number of bigs that shoot 38% from 3, exceedingly low.
Yeah, sure.
So if you have one of these guys, it's probably even more valuable than what gets talked about, which is something we've talked about on the show for a year now since you joined. So, okay. That was a good one. That was a really good one. We're going to have to get a new producer whose name we can't quite say yet.
Yes.
To figure out a way to make social clips based off of these.
Yeah. Yep.
Because there are definitely good social clips here.
No, I like this little, I appreciate the freedom you've given me with this because I really enjoy, I take a lot of pride in finding these and I will continue
with these random ones. Yes. I like this. Yeah.
Okay.
Bryce asks a question, final one, and we'll go for like 5 minutes on this. So hopefully it's not a crazy long one.
Well, and it shouldn't be. It builds a little bit off the last one, which we got a lot of great feedback from. I posted a comment I got, somebody DM me and like was really appreciative. So I'm going to stay on that just a little bit, but I want to go specifically to how you analyze players. I have a lot of people that reach out and they're like, Bryce, how do I learn the game better? How do I evaluate the game? How do I see the game the way you guys do? And so I guess my question, Sam, is what's your advice there? Like let's take somebody that's not brand new to the game, but somewhat of a novice. And where do they start? What are maybe some tools they could use? Because not everybody has synergy access like you and I
Yeah.
have. So what are the advice? What would you tell somebody trying to get into this film breakdown, analyze the game at the level that we feel like we try to do it?
Yeah, have ADHD like I do, and like have a superpower that makes you never get tired of like the thing that you're interested in. Um, no. Okay. That makes me think back to like how I learned.
Yeah.
So I read a lot when
Okay.
I was like, probably 15, 12 years ago, whatever. Like read a crazy amount on what I should be looking for. I found like any books I could find on like basketball sets, and I, found what I could on like analytics, and found what I could on different things. Like I read like a crazy amount of books, and like I'll try and like think through books that I read maybe as we're talking, or honestly, like I don't even know if I'm going to be able to. That could be something that like I could just post, but like I read like a crazy amount. Now I don't know that you would have to read. I think now like so much of this is online. Like
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of the time if I'm looking for like a random set that I see on TV, like I'll go to, Fast Break or whatever, and like find, to see if like that's uploaded, right? If I find like something really interesting, I'll like type like kind of you know, thing in where I'm like, okay, like, down screen into a, ball screen. And now like I know the terminology kind of as well. So like, ram ball screen into a flare into, I can like kind of type the words. But I would say that like the way I think all of our brains work like very differently, right? So like one thing that I'm doing right now is like kind of trying to learn a little bit more about like how my brain functions, and like trying to figure out like ways frankly to like avoid catastrophic burnout, which happens with me sometimes. So I've been like trying to better myself and learn like different strategies regarding how I can, despite having ADHD and like different things, like figure out like how my brain works basically. And one thing that I have found is that for me personally, it is very valuable for me to like know terminology ahead of time, and
Okay.
to know um things ahead of time, and then see it, and then I'll be able to like go, okay, this is this going into this is going into this, right? um for some people it might be better to just watch basketball and then go back and look at what they're trying to figure out. Watch a game of the NBA, diagram what you're seeing or whatever, do it on the fly, right? Like I watch these drumming videos online where like literally like musicians like drumming, right? Where they've never heard a song before, and they have to try and figure out like what they would do if they're writing a part for it. The Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith, what he does is he just starts playing like immediately, and it's fucking insane. Like that he's capable of like playing a competent drum part like immediately. But then other people like will listen to the song twice ahead of time,
Okay.
literally like write out notes and kind of try and figure out like, okay, I'm going to do this, then this, then this, then this. Some people like learn it, everyone learns in different ways. So I guess like my first piece of advice would just be like, figure out the way that you learn about things first and foremost. Like figure out the way that you are capable of, ingesting information. Um, and then kind of try to understand how like you should best strategize it that way. I'm a big believer in everybody has like different learning styles.
Sure.
Than anything though. So, that'd be my first thing. The second thing would be watch a lot of basketball. I watch a crazy amount of basketball, and you kind of start to learn little similarities across levels. Now, like the thing that's really fun for me now is living here in Australia. I get to see way more FIBA basketball than what I did when I was just in the United States, right? So I think that's why I've been the whole time kind of on this, not crusade or whatever, but like I think that watching FIBA basketball throughout the year in a way that other people who cover the NBA don't probably gives me a little bit better of an understanding of what's happening with Team USA and like with Tatum and with everything like that. Right. So just watch a lot of basketball, figure out what you want to learn, like what you care about within the game, and kind of go from there. I mean, that was like rambly and scrambled, which again, like the ADHD side of it. But what would be your advice, I guess would be my question, because yours will probably be a little bit more thought out than that.
Well, I had a little time to think about it because I thought of this question, so I knew that I would have a chance. I just spring these on you. I think one was what you just said there at the end in terms of find where you want to start. Like find what you care about when you're analyzing the game. Is it specific players? Is it a team? It's okay to start small and build out. I mean, I think about
100%.
this all the time is I started only covering the Pistons. That's all I did. And then it went to NBA draft. And then it became and if I would have tried to come do game theory with you right off the bat, I would have failed. I would have failed because I didn't understand the league as a whole enough right when I first started. So the Pistons gave me an entry, and then the NBA draft gave me a little bit more. And then I was able to start, getting a well-rounded look at it. So that's what I would say to even if it's just one player, you want to be the Steph Curry guy that analyzes his off-ball movement, go be that guy or girl and let that be your thing to start off. And then the other thing I wanted to emphasize was make sure you focus on the process as you watch the game and not always the results. Every time somebody has a turnover, it doesn't mean they made a bad read. Maybe the defender got lucky or just barely got their hand there, or watch the roll man. Was he in the right spot? Or, defensive rotation, stuff like that. And sometimes that stuff is hard, and I'm learning it every day. Me and you send clips back to each other during the season, and we go, whose fault is it? You will send me a clip and go, Bryce, like, what do you think they're doing here? Why? And then I'll say this, and we'll have a debate through text about it. So don't think
I do this. Like, that's another thing I want to say. Like, I do this with coaches all the time too. Like, that's like, I have access to like really fucking smart people that like I will send a clip to and just be like, hey, like, what is this? Or hey, like, what are you seeing here? Whose fault? Like, etc. And then we'll go back and forth on stuff. But don't be afraid to ask questions would be my big thing. Like, if you see something, like, don't be afraid to like ask the people around you, like, hey, what do you see here? What do you see there? That kind of stuff.
Yes, I think that's huge because I've learned a lot. The NBA, what I learned when I came into this was the NBA game is different. And so I had to learn to change the way I viewed it because I had to value certain things that as a small town, small school, high school coach were not the same value as playing in the NBA. It just wasn't the same. So I had to throw away some of my philosophies as a coach and see the NBA game the way it was played. So make sure you're doing that, whether it is grassroots, EYBL or Under Armour, or if you're in college or NBA. I would just say if you're truly just starting out, start small though. It's okay. Just to don't try to cover the whole NBA from the start, because I think that's really hard. Like, find your thing and then build it out from there would be one of my biggest things also.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good question. I like that. That made me think about things a little bit. Okay,
Appreciate
Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, so at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, follow me over there for any content I'm pushing out, Substack, podcasts, anything like that. Otherwise, I'm here with Sam Vecenie on the Game Theory podcast, starting school this week. So send me a little bit of lucks and prayers and whatever you send for the start of the school year here in Kansas, and I think pretty much across most of the country. I don't know. I guess some people start after Labor Day, I guess. So maybe not most of the country.
I think that's right. I think we were having this conversation. I was having this conversation with somebody last week. I think that like it's either right around now or Labor Day. Yeah, what are we going to do this week? We will have another show this week. I just truly, like, I have no schedule for the rest of this week. It's possible I make Bryce start our bigger, longer project that we're going to do,
Okay.
but I'm not 100% sure yet on that. Especially given that he starts school this week, I might not make him do that until this weekend and like think about it until this weekend. We'll figure out what we're going to do though for later this week, and we'll have some fun with it, and we'll try and break down some stuff, and it'll be a good time. What else do we have coming? It's a bit of a slow period. Like, basketball is really going to die here for about a month until teams get back to training camp in the NBA, which is great. Like, it'll give us all a little bit of downtime, a little bit of a rest, which I think we could all use after this season. But we'll figure out what we're going to do. We're going to have some fun, and it'll be summer basketball that we'll talk about. So, yeah, go to The Athletic, keep me employed over there. And until next time, we'll talk soon.